Hello friends, welcome once again to the Financial Literacy. It is brought to you by the Financial Literacy Foundation in partnership with Mana TV. And thank you for joining us, friends, Mana Tabernacle family and our Facebook friends. We welcome you today in this session. It is the 21st recording of its kind. There are 20 other recordings that you have access to, and I will urge you to please get hold of such so that you can be able to, because it's a continuation all the time when we do these sessions, so that you can be able to familiarize yourself with what we have been talking about and be able to connect the dots here and there. Allow me, friends, first of all to greet and appreciate our leadership, our General Overseer, Pastor Strike, and our Senior Pastor of Mana Tabernacle, Pastor Joylene. Thank you very much, parents, for this opportunity that you have given us, and thank you for creating a platform like this where we are able to give such important lessons that we need to do. The Word of God teaches us that people perish, people are destroyed due to lack of knowledge, and the purpose of these sessions is to be able to build on our knowledge. We also taught in the Word of God that we are given according to our ability. These sessions are able to build our ability when it comes to the management of money. It is a duty of every steward. In order for him to succeed in his stewardship, he needs to upskill himself. He needs to build his skills. He needs to build his knowledge in the things that he is managing in order to be able to advance and be able to grow his capacity to manage, to hold, or to handle the resources that are so much importantly given to us by God to manage. Today, friends, I want us to talk about one of the rules, and we did speak about this some way back, I think in our lesson number 3, where we spoke about telling your money where to go and make sure that it gets there. And what is that? It is none other than budgeting. Telling your money where to go and make sure that it gets there, you can best do it through budgeting. Why is this important? It is important because when we can tell our money where to go, when we can make sure that it gets there, it will just direct itself on where to go. It will just find itself on its way out of our pockets, on its way out of our handling. And when we do that, we are not good stewards. When that happens, it means that we are not qualified to handle more than what we are currently having. Let me remind you so that we can connect the dots also. We spoke about the 7 laws of money, and this is law number 5 of the 7 laws. What was law number 1? Law number 1 talks about spending less than what you earn. Law number 2 speaks about saving, that you need to save, and saving comes before investing. In other words, you can invest before you save. And law number 3 spoke about giving, and we even gave reasons, some of the reasons why we must give. We said giving, it's an antidote of greed. It's an antidote of ungratefulness and lack of contentment. And law number 4 spoke about anticipating your irregular expenditure and prepare accordingly. What is that? That is emergency fund planning. And today we want to talk about law number 5, which is telling your money where to go, which we said is budget. And law number 6, we spoke about credit. We said manage your credit and borrow only what you can afford to pay. And we did speak few weeks ago about credit and credit bureau and managing our credit profiles. We will come back to some of these topics, but it is important that we see where does today's teaching fits in. And this last law of money, we said learn the language of money. And we speak about the money skill, which we did in the last week, if I'm not mistaken. Last week we spoke about the unspoken, the skills of money, and where we also touched on the language of money, to say speak like this, don't speak like this. So today we want to talk about law number 5 of money, which is budgeting. We need to create a budget, friends. If we don't have the skill to create a budget, it will be difficult for us to grow out of what we are having. How are we gonna account? One of the skills of the wealthy was accounting or controlling. Budget enables us to control, because creating a budget, it comes to where we understand the importance of every one rand that we have. Remember, everything starts and stops with budget. If you can know how to budget, if you can stick to budget, I can guarantee you, my friend, you are on your way to success financially. We want to develop these spending habits so that we are able to make success of the little resources that we are having. Budget enables you to have proper spending habit. Like I say, if you don't have a budget, you are not yet ready to be trusted with more. I spoke the other day after our senior pastor gave us a teaching, and I added and say, what you have is a test. And Pastor Jolene taught more about test. So financially, also, what you have, it's a test to see if we can be trusted with more than what we are currently having. So when we learn to spend less than what we are earning, we can only see that through doing our budget. How will you know that you are spending less than what you are earning if you are not having a spending plan? That's law number 1, and other things. So what exactly is a personal budget? We may start there. Personal budget, like I said, it is telling your money where to go and making sure that it gets there. Because you can tell your money where to go and it never gets there. How will you ensure that it gets there? It is through having a proper spending plan. So budget is a financial planning tool that allows you to plan how much you are going to spend and save on a monthly basis and on a yearly basis, because your monthly budget will develop into the yearly budget. It's everything that you do on a monthly basis, multiply that by 12 or add up all your monthly budgets in order to get the annual budget. If you can be able to see your annual budget, I can tell you, you will change some of the habits in your spending. So it allows you, budget that is, it allows you to track and control your spending habit. Just like companies, just like governments, very soon we'll be hearing our finance minister talking about the medium-term budget. But we are familiar with the speech or the talk by the finance minister every February, where he come out with the annual budget for the government, where different departments are allocated funds, and they are sometimes even dictated on where to spend such type of funds. That is how the government or our treasury, through the finance minister, telling the government money where to go and making sure that it gets there. So, and this is being used to control the spending. We are shown how the government will receive money and how the government will spend such money. It is also our responsibility as individuals to do likewise. We must know where our money will be coming from, and we must know how we are going to spend it. It is good control of money. And usually when such budget is developed and gazetted, when you go against it, when you spend outside the budgeted process, what do we call it? Misspending. We call it mismanagement of funds. And we do have laws also that deals with controlling, and that deals with people who spend outside budgeting. At times we even call it corruption. I'm saying all this so that you can be able to see that when you develop a budget and you go against your own budget, there are consequences. You can even be charged. I want you to charge yourself from now when you spend outside your budget, because when you do that, it means you are not able to control. You are not able to stick to your plan. So how do we develop a budget? There are things that we need to have in place in order to be able to develop a budget. Some of those things we need to determine our past spending. How do we determine our past spending? Let us go back to the past 3 months bank statement, past 3 months invoices. Go back to your past 3 months municipal account to see how much you're spending on a monthly basis to the municipality. Your 3 months accounts, where you see how much are you paying to this particular account. It could be a retail account, it can be a vehicle installment, it could be any other thing. We need those records in order to be able to develop a monthly budget. Even go into your bond statement to be able to see how much is my bank charging me on a monthly basis. Some of us will only know that I'm paying around so much. We don't have the exact amount, and these are some of the things that don't change on a monthly basis. So if it's things that don't change on a monthly basis, we need to have a good grip for it. We need to be able to know exactly, so that we can plan that we are able to put so much down for this item and so much down for this item. So everything you spend on, you need to have a record for it, so that it can be proof or an evidence of how you are going to make such allocation into your budget. So budget, it's a statement. Like I said, it's a financial planning tool. I now spoke about expenses, but it also records your income. You must be able to know exactly how much is your income that you are planning on spending. So it will have your income, it will have your expenses, and everything must balance. So we can be able to be accountants of our own money, because if we can't be accountants of our own money, it means we will not have proper accounting. By accounting, I'm not referring to the accounting, the theory, but I'm referring to accounting, the practical, the practice, the real things that you take down and say this plus this plus this and this minus this equal this. That is accounting. Accounting simply means being able to account, to respond if you were to be asked. So how do we do budgeting? I said we need to have those records that show us our past expenses, that shows us all our past income over the past 3 months, or even more, especially if you've got variable income and variable expenses. But there are 8 steps that I would like to deal with today for us to be able to be practically clear as to how do we actually do this budgeting. Some of you might be having budgets already, so you can simply listen and check if maybe your budgeting needs improvement here and there, or maybe you are okay with how you have done budgeting. But these are the 8 simple steps that are practical and useful to every average person out there. It could be a student, you could be a single person, you could be talking about joint income of the family, you could be any other person who earns and who spends. You need to have a budget. Now, where do we start? What is step number 1 in budgeting? Firstly, we need to determine our monthly take home. Your monthly take home, that is your net salary if you are a salaried person. Your net salary that gets deposited into your bank account. And it may not be too obvious for someone who is not a salaried person, who is having variable income. You need to be able to determine, even if it is a variable income, in other words, the income that changes on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis, you need to have a system of how to estimate. And my advice to you is that work on the lowest level of income. If this month you're earning 10,000 and next month you're earning 7,000 and the following month you're earning 10,000 and the next month you're earning 6,000, I will say work your budgeting based on the lowest level of income. Yes, you can work on averaging the 7,000 and the 6,000 and the 10,000. But what will happen on the month where you have less? It will throw your budget out. So work on the minimum amount that you are sure of earning. Then build your budget on that. Your income will include all the different sources: salary, business income, it may be a child grant there, it may be an allowance of some kind, it may be any other thing which constitute income to you, rental income, all of that. It might be a pocket money that you are given by your parents. You need to work your budgeting based on whatever source of income, whatever form of income that you are having, and record that income down. And then it means if you've got different levels. Last week we spoke about developing multiple streams of income. So if you've got different streams of income, you list all those different streams down and get a total of your income down underneath, and that we will call income. After developing determining your income, now we can go to step number 2. Now we must create a spending plan. How are you going to spend that income? And that is under step number 2. Number 1 thing on creating a spending plan, we need to determine what I call essential fixed expenses. I believe we know what essential is by now. COVID-19 taught us so much about essential services workers. These are workers whom society will not exist properly without. Maybe the word properly is not good enough. The society cannot do without. So in that way, we have realized that this is the core. If we were to talk about strikes, we will say this is the skeleton staff. So even in your expenses, friends, you do have essential fixed expenses. These are the expenses that are the same month in, month out. They are essential and they are fixed. They are the same on a monthly basis. And where do we start on this? It starts on rule number 2. Still remember what rule number 2 is? Save. So your first item on your budget, on your what we call spending, will be your savings, and that is 10%. Remember I said the other day that a Christian or a normal proper human being must be living on 70% of his income. So the first 10% is going now. It's going to savings. And the second 10% is going to giving away. And now you are left with 80%. And as it goes down, it works properly. So your first fixed essential expenses, it's giving the 10% and saving, and so on and so on. You don't have to build anything other than that. And if you haven't built any emergency fund, remember your first 10% saving will be going towards building your emergency fund. So what are the other items under the essential fixed expenses? This will include school fees. This will include installments on, could be the bond, mortgage bond, it could be your vehicle repayment, it could be any other thing which stands fixed at the time. It could be the rental expense. Your rent is not changing on a monthly basis. It could be your insurance premiums. They don't change on a monthly basis. So these are the kind of things that are fixed, and you are liable to be paying them on a monthly basis. What could be other items? It could be the items that you know that they don't change. Whether you have earned so much or you have earned so little, they stay the same. Check your accounts to see where are those expenses, where are those fixed expenses. So also, the reason for determining, I said you must have your bank statements and your account statements and so on. It's also to make sure that you go through those accounts to make sure that you are not charged things that are not necessary. What could be the things that are not necessary against that very same account? I will give you one good example. Some of us were paying the homeowners insurance of our houses through the bond account. That is not a wise way of paying your homeowner's insurance. That is the insurance of your building, of your house. Because as that premium goes against the bond, the day it is debited in your account, it increases your outstanding balance. And remember that your interest, you are being charged on the outstanding balance of the bond, and then the amount is raised and calculated monthly. So the day your outstanding balance increases by your insurance premium, you are paying interest, which is not necessary that you should be paying. So go and check your bond statements, go and check your different accounts which might have some additional charges that are not warranted. No one will see it except you. So go and look at that. When you have determined your essential fixed expenses, now you can determine your variable fixed expenses. What are these expenses? I beg your pardon, your essential variable expenses. And what are these expenses? These are the expenses that changes on a monthly basis according to how you use them. So they are important. Remember, they are still on the essential, only that they are variable. This will include your grocery. It is rare that you will buy the same amount to the last cent of your grocery. It could be your airtime. You may not be buying the same airtime on a monthly basis. It could be your petrol expenses or fuel or transport expenses. You may not be paying the same amount, but they are essential. You need them. You spend that money, but you are not having the same fixed amount on a monthly basis. It could be your electricity also. In some months, you will be using a little bit more. In some months, you might be using a little bit less, depending on your usage. If there is a month where you did a lot of baking, for instance, in your kitchen, we know that ovens spend a lot of electricity. So you might find that on that particular month, your electricity bill has gone up a little bit. So, but point here is that determine your essential variable expenses and get a total of it. After doing that, now we can go to step number 4, where now you determine your non-essential expenses. What are the non-essential expenses? These are expenses that we incur, but they are not a matter of life and death. They are not essential. In other words, you can do without them. They are only good or important to have them, but you can do without them. This could be your entertainment expenses. This could be your eating out bills, for instance. This could be your hobbies, for instance. So this is where your sacrifice will come from in the event where you find that your budget is not meeting at the end of the day. So, but having said that, there are some of the things we put in our non-essential expenses, and we think that they are very important. Let us be honest, friends. One man once said, there are needs and there are needs. Needs are those things that we can't do without, and needs are those things we think they are needs, meanwhile they are actually wants. So don't take your needs and put them under essential services. They are not essential, they are non-essential. Step number 5, we determine your miscellaneous expenses. What are miscellaneous expenses? These are the expenses that are just by the way. These are the expenses that you will pick up even on your records. You even forgot that you had this expense last week, last month. You only see it when you go through your records. Again, they are not very much different from the non-essential expenses that we spoke about earlier on. But this one, they are even more very unnecessary. Yet they are there, yet they do come through, and the good budget or a good budget must be able to pick up even those that we are spending on, even though we could have, if I could see it now, I would say, I should not have done any, I should not have spent this much on this particular item. Those are the miscellaneous expenses. And step number 6 now, we get the total of all those different expenses. What are the different expenses? The essential fixed expenses, the essential variable expenses, the non-essential expenses, the non-essential expenses, and the miscellaneous expenses. Let us get a total of those different expenses. You know what you are spending your money on. So anything that you put your money on should fall in one of those categories. Determine some of the things after having this discussion are going to move from essential to non-essential. Some of them are going to move from to miscellaneous, which means they are just a by the way kind of expenses. Let's get the total of that. We add all the expenses down and we want to deduct them now from the income. We aim to have the expenses less than our income. Remember law number 1 of money, spend less than your earning. So when you add them, your income minus your expenses, when you have a positive balance, that means that you are not living beyond your means. But when you have a negative balance, it might as well mean that you are living beyond your means. There's a problem. But don't panic as yet. We have a solution on how to solve the problem. We are going to now move to step number 7 after getting the balance. Income minus expenses. And what is step number 7? We cut, we adjust, and we refine. So we cut, adjust, and refine up to a point where now our expenses are less than our income. We don't stop there. And there are things we will not remove. We will not stop eating. We will not take off our transportation, because it is our transportation that gives in some of this income. Because we are going to work, we travel for work and so on. But we may stop some of the entertainment expenses. We may decide now to balance our budget. Some of the things we won't be able to do them immediately during the middle of the year. But when we are doing this, getting used to doing this on a monthly basis, we will be able to determine and decide, maybe I need to move my children from that expensive institution, from that expensive school into a less expensive, into an affordable expenses, because some of the bigger items in our budgeting, it's school fees. We may decide to cut off on, for instance, some of the hobbies. Not that we don't need them, but even though we need them, our budget is not balancing, and we need to have our budget balancing. We may decide to cut off on the gym membership, for instance. Not that we don't need to exercise so that we are healthy, but we can adopt other methods of exercising. It could be exercising in the house. It could be jogging around your streets, your area, of stay. So there are different methods that can be used in order to cut our budget down. Remember, we start focusing on the miscellaneous and the non-essential and so on in order to be able to track and put our expenses down. Don't allow your budget to go with expenses more than your income. You are getting into a big hole which you will struggle to come out. It may take 1 month to go in. It will take you many months to come out. So bear that in mind. And step number 8, which is the last step, you need to track your spending. After developing a budget, you are not developing a budget in order to put it in the drawer. You need to track your spending. And how do you track your spending? Number 1, hire yourself as the project manager for this work. No one is interested in your finances more than you do yourself. So hire yourself as the project manager to implement this plan. Hire yourself and be the best person in order to achieve what your goals are. You are the best for the job. No one, not even your financial advisor, will be able to do this for you. No one cares about your finances better than yourself. This is a daily job. Tracking your spending is a daily job. You must make it a habit that you take few minutes of on your day every day to record down your spending. If you do that, I can guarantee you that we will get to where Pastor Mahlangu wants us to be, which is at the top. So if we spend, we record it down. It must be within a budget. If it is not in my budget, it won't be in my pocket. That is what you need to adopt. Moreover, you need to have a buy-in of the family when you develop a plan of spending, because some of the things you are not the one directly spending. So be the one who will sell the idea to the family, and the family must adopt the budget so that they can help you in managing that spending. And let me conclude by saying there are different templates that you can use in order to do this exercise. There are paper-based templates, and those who have financial advisors, they can help you with that. And if you don't, please give me a call. I will email you one which you can be able to use. But also, there are electronic gadgets that we're having now. Trust me, in your smartphone, there's a budget plan. There's a budget Excel, which you can be able to use, and it adds up automatically some of these things. So you can use a paper-based, you can use the electronic-based. Whatever system you use, find a system to use, and it must work for you. Use it. There are consequences for not having a budget, and one of them is overspending. But the other one is poverty. Those who are poor today are not always poor because they did not and they do not have resources, but it's poor planning, it's poor management. How will you manage if you can't account? So take few minutes every day, do that please. And also, there are different systems that you can use. I said the paper-based, the electronic-based. If all this doesn't work, use the envelope system. Put different funds on different envelopes and mark the envelope that this is for bread, this is for petrol. When that money finishes in that envelope, you stop spending. Because if you continue spending, it means you are spending from another envelope. You can also use the cash system. Cash system is similar to the envelope one, but simply to say, I don't spend if I don't have the cash. In that way, it will avoid you from relying on your credit card. Remember, your credit card is not your emergency fund. Your credit card is not your of failing to plan your spending. So spend wisely, and you will be able to have good results. When you reach your limit, stop spending. And in those few words, I want to thank you, and I believe and I hope that you are getting something. You will be able to adopt these skills so that you do not perish. Remember, when you perish, your children are perishing also, and your children's children will also perish out of your ignorance. Thank you very much. May God richly bless you. See you at the top, as Pastor Mahlangu says. In Jesus' name, amen.